This man wakes up from the operation table, but the surprising thing is that the hospital, which once used to be full of people, is now covered with a strange silence. He wants to call home, but finds that all networks have been shut down. Even more shocking thing was that where once there used to be liveliness, now there were piles of garbage on the roads, and desolation had spread. Kept wandering on the deserted streets for many hours. Then he found some clues, a 10-day-old newspaper which had news of emergency evacuation. On the intersection, dozens of missing people search posters were posted. Now it was clear that some terrible incident had suddenly taken the lives of thousands of people. Jim, drowned in confusion, naturally entered a church, but what he saw there was enough to shake him to the core. In the middle of the hall, dozens of human corpses were lying. Jim, in fear, shouted loudly, and then from the pile of corpses, two shadows stood up. Jim started feeling anxious from within. Now he had only one wish: to somehow escape. But just then, from the front, a strangely behaving priest, father, ran towards him. He punched, but in return came a heart-wrenching scream from that priest. Jim didn't waste a single moment and started running. But now the rest of the people who had risen from the corpses were running after him. The more Jim ran, the more fear kept growing inside him. And just when he was truly about to get caught, a burning Molotov cocktail came flying through the sky. Two masked people suddenly appeared and started stopping those zombie-like people to save Jim. But the surprising thing was that their entire bodies were in flames, yet they weren't stopping their chase. Until an explosion occurred at the petrol pump, and everything burned to ashes. Only then did the chase stop. Jim was terribly scared and screamed out, "Who are these people after all?" The masked people took him, and there they began to explain everything. The story now goes into a flashback. 28 days earlier, some members of an animal protection group had quietly broken into a lab. They had already received information that illegal experiments were being conducted on monkeys. However, the scientists kept warning repeatedly. They kept warning that the virus locked inside the Star Lab has extremely dangerous infectious potential. Still, two activists take it out. From here, the virus was named Rage Virus. And then it started spreading among humans like madness. This virus increases the hidden desires inside a human, and the infected person is left only with aggressive behavior. In just 28 days, cities like New York and Paris were completely destroyed. After that, all contact with the outside world was cut off. Jim couldn't believe his ears. For a few days for an appendicitis operation. But outside, the world had already faced destruction. Now he was thinking only one thing: to somehow go and meet his parents. A young man named Michael tried to explain to him, and told him two rules. Rule 1. Never go anywhere alone. Rule 2. Never go out at night. The next morning, Jim, along with Michael and Anna, started toward his home with a heavy heart. Luckily, they didn't encounter any danger on the way. They reached Jim's house very safely. But as soon as the door was opened, the damp and rotten smell inside filled Jim's heart with fear. And the truth was just that. His parents had died many days ago. The unfinished medicines on the table were indicating that both elders had chosen to embrace death. Seeing them in the photo, Jim's heart filled with pain. But still, life must go on. Time was short, so they decided to spend the night at that house. When Michael and Anna were deep asleep, Jim sat alone, lit a candle, and started thinking. He had no idea that this small mistake would attract the zombies. Suddenly, a loud crashing sound is heard, and a zombie attacks Jim directly. Fortunately, Michael and Anna arrive in time, and together they kill the zombie. But sadly, Michael gets injured during the fight, and the zombie bites him. silent and filled with guilt. But along with this, he finally accepted the truth of this world. That this world was no longer the same. Even this place was no longer safe. So the two of them decided overnight to head toward the underground shelter of a shopping mall. But on the way, they saw that on one of the buildings ahead, blue and red lights were flickering. It was clear that some surviving human had deliberately sent this signal. Jim and Anna decided to go and check it out. But the entrance of the building was completely blocked with shopping carts. They understood that this barricade was made to stop zombies. They quickly removed the carts and created a path. But the mistake was that they forgot to block the path again. As a result, they hadn't even climbed the stairs when some zombies started chasing after them. Both of them ran with all their strength, but the zombies were also chasing them at lightning speed. Suddenly a man, fully armed with weapons, appeared. He pulled Jim and Anna into a room, and with his experience and strength, he quickly killed all the zombies. Actually, those blue and red lights were the work of that man and his daughter. Their purpose was to call out any remaining survivors and take them along. Their drinking water supply was almost finished. At the same time, they had also received a radio broadcast, which was repeatedly announcing that the army had set up a camp outside the city. A safe camp had been set up, where there was no shortage of food, water, and medicines. Hearing this announcement repeatedly on the radio, the girl's father, Frank, changed his mind. Now he had decided to go there and meet the remaining survivors. But the problem was that the base camp was a full 3 days' journey away from here, and he couldn't reach there alone with his daughter. So they used neon lights to send signals so that more people could come, and a group could be formed to travel together. A small van loaded with lots of supplies set out on the mission. Anna, Jim, and Frank, the three of them, were extremely excited for this new journey. But their hopes didn't last long. Soon the tunnel through which they had to pass had its entrance blown up in an explosion, and rubble was scattered everywhere. Frank didn't panic at all. He said, "Let's wear these masks and go straight in." Though they managed to cross the debris, one of the van's tires burst there. And unfortunately, this tunnel was exactly the place where zombie movement was the highest. Anna's heart sank. In the very next moment, the roar of zombies was heard from inside the tunnel. The three of them lifted the car together and started changing the tire with all their strength. Jim used all his speed and power. And finally, before the zombies could reach, the tire was changed. They all jumped into the car quickly and very smoothly left the chasing zombies behind. Soon after, they reached a supermarket where there was food, water, and all essentials. The three did heavy shopping together. Now that they had food and water, it was time for petrol and fuel. Luckily, they found a fuel tanker in the parking lot. Frank started filling the tank, and Jim went alone into a closed room. There he saw a corpse lying on the floor. Jim deliberately made some noise to see if a zombie was nearby. And when a zombie appeared, Jim, without fear, struck its head with a bat. After surviving so many deaths, Jim had understood that to stay alive in this world, fear must be killed. After many days of long travel, they finally reached the place that was mentioned on the radio. But upon reaching there, all their hopes were shattered. The place was completely deserted. No soldiers, no camp. It was clear that this shelter had already been destroyed by zombies long ago. Frank was heartbroken. He didn't know what to do now. He started wandering around the camp. A wave of anger rushed through him. He ran toward the crow and kicked it hard. But right then, a drop of blood fell from the sky and landed straight into Frank's eye. Amy sensed something wrong and immediately stepped forward to ask her father. But Frank pushed her away violently. Who knew that this virus would be so dangerous. In just a few seconds, Frank became fully infected. Jim was still frozen in fear. He was just about to act, when suddenly the sound of gunshots rang out. Hidden soldiers had started firing. Now Jim, Anna, and Amy all had death written on their faces. They were completely at the mercy of the soldiers, and were taken to a new shelter. A military officer himself came out to welcome them. He even took Jim to show the entire base. Finally, after so many days, a new survivor had arrived. This base was built by converting an old school. There were high walls all around, and soldiers patrolled at all times, so there wasn't much danger. Jim toured the entire base with the military officer, and finally, they reached the backyard, where a zombie was kept locked in a cage. The officer explained that they were keeping it alive, so they could observe its behavior. He felt that this officer was hiding something, and at dinner that night, his suspicion grew even stronger. All the soldiers seemed rude and stared intently, especially at Anna and Amy. Suddenly, an explosion was heard outside, a sign of a zombie attack. All the soldiers immediately grabbed their weapons and rushed outside. Due to the strong walls and preparation, they were able to eliminate the zombies quickly. After this minor crisis, the soldiers returned in a wave of victory, and then their eyes fell on Anna. Their hungry stares and true intentions were now clearly visible, as they hadn't seen any woman in a long time. One soldier openly started harassing Anna, while the others just laughed. Only one soldier, Hugage, stood up and scolded him. Thankfully, the commanding officer arrived just in time. He immediately dismissed all the soldiers, and even scolded Hugage for raising his hand on his fellow when no one was around. The officer finally revealed the truth to Jim. He explained that they were not the real army. When the original shelter collapsed, the army command ended. Now they were just regular survivors, struggling to stay alive. That officer had promised his men that he would bring women through radio broadcasts, and what would happen to them afterward would be up to everyone's will. Jim felt disgusted hearing all this. He immediately decided to escape with Anna and Amy, but as soon as he reached the door, he was slammed hard to the ground. It was shown in the video that only Hugage still believed a little in humanity, but against 4 men, he had no strength to do anything. He too was soon beaten and thrown down. The officer didn't like such rebels. He immediately ordered, "Take Jim and Hugage away and shoot them." Both were dragged towards a dense forest, where corpses of people shot dead lay on both sides of the path. It was clear that all this was their dark doing, but the power of being the main character saved Jim. A new, nervous soldier accidentally fired his gun, killing Hugage and injuring another soldier. Taking advantage of this moment, Jim hid in the bushes, and as soon as the 2 soldiers moved a little ahead, he escaped into the forest. But back at the base camp, Anna and Amy were about to face a terrible fate. The soldiers were just about to harm them, when suddenly the siren blared. In fact, Jim had not abandoned them. He was hiding in a corner, waiting for the first guard to appear, so he could attack. Using the heavy rain and his knowledge of the area, Jim launched a surprise attack and killed a soldier. When the commanding officer got the news, he rushed there, but all he found was a dead body. He was just about to escape in a vehicle when he discovered the entire electric system had shut down, and just then, zombies were seen approaching from afar. He panicked completely and quickly ran back towards the base to save himself. But no one knew that Jim had already reached the base. He fired a shot and broke the chains of the zombie that was caged in the backyard. Meanwhile, the soldiers were completely unprepared. They were too busy dressing up. Anna and Amy in new fancy clothes. A freed zombie smashed through the window and pounced on a soldier. Taking this opportunity, Anna and Amy escaped immediately. Only one new recruit girl panicked and kept firing into the air. Soon, she also realized that the bitten soldier had now turned into a zombie too. Screaming in terror, she ran toward the back of the base. Now the soldiers had no real defense left. And when weapons are everything, then even soldiers become ordinary humans before zombies. Gradually, the number of infected rose to a dangerous level. Meanwhile, Jim continued taking out the remaining soldiers stealthily. Most soldiers either died or turned into zombies. Jim, Anna, and Amy were reunited again, but now the base camp had become a complete death trap. There was only one option left: escape as soon as possible. She didn't know that the military officer was hiding on the back seat. Jim was startled for a moment, and at that very moment he was shot. But Amy didn't lose courage. She immediately hit reverse. The vehicle crashed back into the parking lot. Just then, a lab-mutated zombie came out and smashed through the window. The military officer got caught right in the zombie's claws, and it dragged him away. His painful screams echoed through the heavy rain and dark night. Seizing the moment, Amy got Jim into the car, and the three of them sped out of the base camp. At this moment, Jim, Anna, and Amy are living in a remote area of a mountain village. The three haven't given up hope for a normal life. They've created a large symbol in an open field, so that if any aircraft flies overhead, they can be seen and rescued. This was the complete story of 28 Days Later. Who would have thought? This movie was released 22 years ago. Its sequel, 28 Years Later, is coming very soon. Now the question is, will it be able to match the greatness of the original? If you also want to be the first to watch its official trailer, then don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll bring the update so quickly that you won't even have a chance to miss it. The deserted and narrow roads there are so isolated that even a zombie might starve to death upon reaching. The three haven't given up hope for a normal life. They've created a large symbol in an open field, so that if any aircraft flies overhead, they can be seen and rescued. This was the complete story of 28 Days Later. Who would have thought? This movie was released 22 years ago. Its sequel, 28 Years Later, is coming very soon. Now the question is, will it be able to match the greatness of the original? If you also want to be the first to watch its official trailer, then don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll bring the update so quickly that you won't even have a chance to miss it.